7-month hiatus.
Not that long.
5-month hiatus.
Feels like a year.
Off of all, we didn't even. Here's the thing: we didn't even make a playoff video. We wanted to. Didn't even make it.
It was a playoff to remember.
I mean,
for some teams.
We should have done one. Didn't. But we're back. It's us. We're back again. We're trying this another go around, and we made what, 3 videos last year for the season?
I think so.
We're gonna shoot for 4.
It's quarterly. It's a quarterly thing.
This is preseason. This is in August.
Preseason.
Preseason. We don't know who's making rosters. We've seen a wild free agency period, but we're not going to talk about that today because we're not prepared.
Shocker.
I'm not prepared for that. He might be more prepared. I just know who moved where. But we're back. We're fresh ice. Even though we're really not that fresh, so we're probably going to have to think of a new name. Try to keep it fresh, keep it cool, keep it frosty. But we're back, and this is what we're doing today. Division winners rankings. Once again, division rankings, not winners, division rankings. We'll have the winners in there with our
August.
In August. In August. All right, season overview. Big picture.
It's going to be a disaster.
It's already a disaster. We made these lists. I'm already not happy with mine. It's a cluster. We'll see.
I think I'm picking it spot on. I'm going to nail this.
I know last year, looking back, hindsight of our division, a lot of our teams matched up except for 2 in each kind of division. This year, completely different. We're going off the rails.
My division winners are... I don't think any of our division winners are the same. Pretty sure.
No. Vegas.
I'm trying to look. Yeah, Vegas.
We got one.
You're welcome.
We got one.
Always bet on the house.
Alright, which one do you want to start with? We got the Atlantic, the Metro, the Pacific, and the Central. I'm going to save the Central for last because...
Yeah, it's... All of them are really... I mean, besides the Atlantic, the top 3, like, it could go any which way, and then the bottom is just even worse.
It's going to be a good year. You know, everyone talks about hope and potential and what we can and can't achieve. And then it's until you hit the ice and see what's going on, then we don't really know what's happening. But let's be honest, right? Ottawa, Detroit, Columbus. Sorry, losers. Anaheim, LA, you've been losers for a while. Now you're really going to suck, alright? And everyone else, good luck. Have a fun year. Don't get hurt.
See what could happen.
Everyone else?
Just got to make playoffs. That's all that you need.
Yeah, everyone else has a chance. Those teams? Yeah. We're playing for picks now, baby. We're playing
It's
for...
for used.
Yeah.
It's already over, I guess.
lose for next year. So, which one do you want to start with?
Let's go with the Atlantic.
Atlantic? Alright.
Powerhouse Atlantic. Or at least 3 of them are. Somewhat. I mean, they've been kind of the only consistent team, so. I'm going with Boston. Even though they're a few veterans, a little bit older team, they've got a bunch of young pieces. If they can re-sign McAvoy, I think that's a big piece of their team. Pasternak was really, I guess, the guy that carried them this last year in the playoffs. Along with Chara. I mean, he's gotten older, so I don't know if he's got a year or 2 left in him, but he's kind of just been the leader, the mentor on the back end. Marchand, just doing his thing, leading that team, so. I mean, they got some big pieces. Tuukka, everybody is on his back the entire time, but he's their only goalie they have, so, I mean, Tuukka literally has to carry the team, so I'm taking Boston first overall.
Boston. Yeah, okay. I'll disagree with you on that.
How dare you.
I thought Pasta wasn't that great in playoffs. I thought Charlie, Coyle, and the third line carried that first line for the finals on that. I'm going to ride with Tampa Bay because they're so amazing in the regular season. And then they get clobbered by Columbus, which was extremely hilarious
Everyone
to me.
predicted that.
Yeah. So, big fan of having my bracket busted in the first round in like the first 4 days of this thing.
In every single division.
Yeah, so, I'm gonna go with Tampa Bay. Now, my two seed. Okay, because Boston's getting a little long in the tooth there. I don't know if they're able to keep all their rental players and who's coming back and who's going to be able to perform in the regular season. Now, playoffs, it's whatever, right? I'm going to go with Toronto. Okay, they're younger. I think they are probably the most talented team in the entire Atlantic Division. Okay, because Tampa Bay had issues scoring, I think, in the back half of their series against Columbus. Because after game 1, Bobrovsky seemed to...
After the first period.
Yeah, Bobrovsky shut it down. And Johnson has kind of always been a letdown to me. Stamkos couldn't get a couple goals.
Brayden Point was one of their best players last year, besides Kucherov.
Right.
But Point was pretty much one of their big point producers down the stretch, and Stamkos kind of trailed off other players.
Yeah. Points for point.
Yeah, points for point all
Points
day
for
long.
So, I'm going to go with Toronto as my 2. I don't know who your 2 is.
I take Tampa Bay as 2.
Ooh.
I mean, they're just a good overall team. Like I said, regular season. Vasilevsky won the Vezina this last year. Debatable. Maybe just from a Stars fan point of view, but I mean, he did pretty much carry them the entire season. They had one of the best goals against and save percentage. But they're also like a high scoring team, so like even if Vasilevsky had a night off or the backup was in net for Tampa Bay, then they can kind of outscore their, I guess, defensive mistakes. But then that kind of came to a head in the playoffs whenever they couldn't get any goals, and there was pretty much no letdown from them. And then I have Toronto coming in at 3rd because, like I said, they're just an overall good team. They're a young team. They're fast. Nobody really matches up with their speed. Boston, even though I picked them first overall, is a lot slower team, I would think, than Toronto. They're kind of a high-octane team. Anderson's good on the back end. They've got a really good defense there. So, I mean, any of those teams could flip-flop in the top 3. Toronto could even win the division.
I have Toronto. It's what? Mitch, Matthews, Hyman, and Nylander's 3rd season? 2nd or 3rd season?
Yeah, 3rd.
Right. And the questions for Toronto have always been the back end. And even last year was the back end. And when they traded for that defenseman, they sent Phaneuf to LA and they picked up a big dude. I'm trying to think of his name now. I'm blanking on his name. But they picked him up, and 2 things were said, right? We got a bigger defenseman, and we got one that plays physical. So it was, we need defense now.
Was it Jack Johnson?
It was Muzzin.
Muzzin, yeah.
Memory. Yeah, they've got Muzzin. And so then what they do this year in their offseason, right, is they traded Kadri. They got rid of a problem, I think. And I say problem, like, yeah, he was good on face-offs.
Suspension-wise.
It was 2 terrible decisions in 2 back-to-back years, and Babcock has always been, we got to get face-off percentage. If you start with the puck, we can do something with it, right? So they went Tavares, Matthews, and Kadri, and I don't think they were going to be able to pay Kadri, and I don't think they were going to give him the right amount of ice time for it. And then he continued to make stupid decisions in playoffs that got him suspended, right? You can make those hits and still have the issue with him, right? You can take the penalties for him and he's just playing physical, he's sending a message, right? He's doing whatever. But when you get suspended for it,
Pick a better time.
pick a better time. Pick a better time. That's all they said. Pick a better time. And you're supposed to be a leader,
Yeah.
right? They don't have a captain.
You're one of the veterans on the team that's been there for, I mean, it's been his entire career, basically, in Toronto, so.
Yeah. So, got rid of that problem. I don't know who they're going to replace him with, but it's not really an issue. And their power play is super deadly. That was the other thing, is Boston wasn't really able to keep up with them that well. I mean, they did overcome them, but it went to 2 Game 7s back-to-back, and it's just that feeling of, if, I think I told you this when it was happening, if Toronto doesn't win Game 6, they're not going to win Game 7.
Especially in Boston.
In Boston. And that's a lot, that's that applies to a lot of sports, right? If you don't win
When
game
you have
6
a
at
team
home,
down 3-2 and you're at home,
you gotta finish.
you gotta finish them off.
Right. So Toronto's there. I have Boston at 3, just because I do like the coaching. I thought that was fine. Their top line always produces in the regular season. Their second line is okay. Beyond that, it's still a big question. And Tuukka is kind of up and down. So, I mean, he played phenomenal this year. Next year, I don't know what we're going to... He'll be fine, right? He'll be good. I don't really know. Now, I have...
The rest of the division.
The rest of the division, except for the bottom 2, is a crapshoot. So I think we flipped here. We looked at the rosters a little bit, just kind of read through them. Didn't do too much high profiling. But I went number 4 is Buffalo.
I could get on that. I mean, Buffalo is a young team. They added some pieces with VC, and Eichel's always going to be your number 1 guy. But I mean, I don't know. I just kind of believe in Montreal a little bit more. That like whenever we watched them last year, like I think it was the first game of the season where they played Toronto in Toronto, and they were just absolutely dominating Toronto in that first period. I think they ended up losing the game, but I mean they outshot them.
Are they
40-20 maybe,
they
something like
outplayed
that.
them? You watched the poor game that year. You watched Washington and Boston. You watched Boston get destroyed. I got the better game.
I think I started watching like the third period, and I was like, I don't even understand. It's like, where did this Montreal come from?
Yeah, and I even told you that at the beginning of the year too. Like Montreal is going to be better. I said Montreal, Detroit, and Florida, and Carolina would be the teams to watch, and I picked 2 of them. Now, with Buffalo, their head coach is Phil Housley.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
I think he got fired.
I don't know. I just think they gotten bigger. They're gotten more experienced. They're able to score a lot easier now. I like them. And then I got Montreal because Montreal still has this lack of offense, and their defense is kind of a who.
Yeah. Price is your defense, basically.
Shea Weber, Price.
I mean, he had a pretty good offensive year last year. It's the first time he's had a good offensive year in a pretty long while, but if, like, your 4th or 5th best offensive player is Shea Weber, you probably got problems.
It's just, they have Boston's old coach, so they're going to be more defensively strong, and I'm not expecting, like, we won 5-0.
Yeah.
They're going to be close games, but if they don't play defense right, and they don't play their style, they're going to get behind, and I don't think they can dig themselves out.
Yeah.
So that's why I got Buffalo ahead of them, Montreal.
Then I got Florida at 6th in the division. I think Adam Bobrovsky is going to help them a little bit, but it's kind of like you said with the offense. I mean, besides maybe Barkov and a few other players on that team, really you're looking at Ekblad to kind of carry the team a little bit on the back end as well. Bobrovsky can only help you so much. I mean, he did a pretty good job with Columbus, but I think Columbus had a little bit more firepower up front than Florida does. So I just don't have them really doing too much other than maybe letting in a few less goals this year.
Florida is a weird team to me. They got a new coach, right? They actually have a coach. They let go. I disagreed with when they fired Gallant, right? I was just like, that's one crappy way to fire, dude.
Yeah.
2, like, he got you to playoffs. He was good, and then they lost.
Something that kind of blindsided the whole team too.
Yeah. So like, I think half the players fled. They have 2 or 3 offensive weapons, but behind Montreal, like I don't really see anything happening. I got Florida there. I don't really know what Bob's gonna do. It's one of those things where it's like you're half rebuilding and you have pieces.
Yeah, but you're not really. You're kind of a mix of both.
You have like a decent. You have a good foundation. You now have a good foundation. Not like, well, we have like mommy. No, you have a good foundation. Just free agency maybe, draft picks, like development. who's coming down the pipeline for you? Not this year.
Yeah.
Sorry. And then 7 and 8.
I have Ottawa at 7th. I'm not picking them last. I'll give you something. But I don't know. Ottawa's just. It'll be interesting to see with new coaching staff, and really a lot of their players are gone from last year. Other than I don't even know if I can name players on Ottawa besides Bobby Ryan. Other than Bobby Ryan, Anderson. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how they come back from this just the last season and then the off season with everything going on with ownership and management. The way things have been going in the city with new arenas and different things like that. What it's going to be like, I don't know. It's just going to be a wait and see kind of game for Ottawa to see what it's going to be like. I'm going to have Detroit as the last spot. I don't know. Detroit's kind of went from one of the top tier teams to kind of just, I don't even know anymore. They're not filling the arena. They're not really putting out a good, a good team on the ice. They have players there that are good. Anthony Ciu and Advocate are different players like that, but it's like they're kind of in that rebuilding phase, but they really don't have much. Like the other teams that don't have much in the pipeline, or they have players in the AHL and the minors that they're bringing up, or in the draft. So
Disagree
it'll be
with you.
interesting.
All right, we agreed with Florida. Okay, we agreed with Florida of they got a good. I'm gonna disagree. Detroit couldn't score last year. They had opportunities, they couldn't finish them. There's one game where I watched them hit 6 pipes and lost the game 2-0. And it was like the opportunities were there, the players are talented, they have good mixture. The only thing I have a problem with Detroit right now is their defense is kind of a who, and I still disagree with getting rid of Mrazek. Because you had 2. You had Howard and Mrazek for the longest time. And I was like, I would go with Mrazek because he played really well against Tampa in the playoffs. Howard was always a little iffy. But I'm going to go with Detroit 7. I'll go Ottawa and 8. It's like you said, you got a new coach, okay, so it's a brand new system. You've got a bunch of kind of like newer-ish players, either brand new players or players that are just in or players that are just trying to have a career. Ownership is this huge issue, and you have issues on, off, around, within. I just don't see them working out this year. Again, we can sit here all and probably make a network. Well, we're all going to make another video about Ottawa, but we could sit here and talk about what happened to Ottawa with everybody. I mean, last year when they traded Carlson and the other one because his wife was stalking Carlson, like there's just issues all over the place. And then the management is going to have an alumni game. Now they're not going to have an alumni game. Now they put a tarp in the fence. Now they're like having issues with building this new great, wonderful thing that's going to revive downtown Ottawa. Now they're being sued. Now we don't know where it's at. Now it's a he said kind of thing. And now he's like this.
I think it's more of just a front office and like a behind closed doors kind of problem, and that's just translating to on ice.
And then, even then, it was with the Uber too. The Uber video. Now I will disagree with the Uber driver for posting that. I mean, it's his video. I guess it's your car. I just think like.
I think they just said it's like conversations like that probably happen in every organization. It just doesn't get put out in the public, and then to have all the other problems surrounding Ottawa at the same time, it just wasn't good timing.
So even though Detroit is not going to be an amazing team, right? They still have the standards, and I think they still have a better chance than Ottawa does. Now, I'm going to go on and move to the Metro, right? Since we're going to stay in the East, we're going to go to the Metro. Now, I'm going to go through these 8 teams, all right, real quickly. And my list is going to be super different from yours. We've made it. And I'm going to say, because Washington kept practically the same personnel, same head coach, same system. They're going to try not to suck this year, okay? We got eliminated by Carolina, right?
Yeah, first round.
First round elimination by Carolina. I'm going to go Washington, Pittsburgh, the Islanders, because...
Yeah. Fair trots.
This is where it gets really iffy for me, right? So the Islanders can only add people. And that's the thought on it. So I'm really skeptical anywhere from 3 through 6 because I'm hopping on a couple trains. So I have the Islanders at 3, Carolina at 4, New Jersey, Philadelphia. I think any of those teams could go in as a 3 slot. Philly's a little bit of a longer shot to me, but if I had, based off of last season, it would be in that order. But the Islanders could fall off, and I'd be okay with Carolina. Then for my 7 and 8, I have Columbus, and then the Rangers.
I think I put Florida in there for some reason. I think we were just got talking on Florida, and I put Florida in there twice. Alright, I got my team. But I'm going to take, since they seem to basically just be in it every year, I'm taking Pittsburgh as first overall division winner. Second, I'm going out of left field and picking New Jersey. I think just adding Simmons and Subban, it's going to help them, kind of like with Hall. That first year, he comes out and he has an MVP season. But I just think they have a good team. Hall's going to come back healthy. So I have them jumping up there, and then Washington in at third. I think they're going to be a playoff team. I'm not sure if they're going to go maybe second round. I could see them. I'm not sure they have the team to repeat for Stanley Cup. I mean, they're basically, like I said, the same team, but just, I don't know, that season was just special for them. Islanders coming in at fourth. They could be kind of a bubble. They could switch back between Washington. Those two could either flip-flop right there. I have Carolina in at fifth. They had a really good season. They were a wild card team coming in to the playoffs last year and kind of shocked everybody. So I think they've got a good young team. They're up on the rise. They could be in the top 3 within the next couple of years or so. I have the Rangers above Buffalo in my rankings.
Buffalo's in the other one.
Are they?
Buffalo's in the Atlantic.
Thought they were in the same division.
They're in the same state.
Well, I have the Rangers there then. But I think the Rangers are going to have a better season than people think they're going to have, with Kakko and adding Trouba in there as well. VC went off to Buffalo, so I don't know if that's baggage off of them, but Lundqvist is going to be there as always, so he's kind of their big piece. But I think they're going to be a little bit better. I don't think they're a playoff team, but I think if they made the playoffs, it probably wouldn't shock me, I guess.
I'd be shocked.
I mean, not shocked, but surprised, I guess. I don't know.
That'd be
I just think they're getting younger, so I think they're adding more speed, and I think that's going to make them a little bit better team than they were last year. But I still don't see them making playoffs this season. And then I have Philly in its seventh. They've got a good young goalie. They added a couple of pieces, and Matt Niskanen coming over for Gudis, that kind of helps them out on the back end a little bit, I guess, offensively. With Gostisbehere and Provorov, they have a pretty good D-core. They got a bunch of veterans up front. Patrick is one of the young guys for them, so they got a little bit of speed, but I still don't. I'm not sure on the whole coaching situation with Alain Vigneault coming in first year as a coach, so we'll see how that translates to Giroux and players like that, and then Columbus. Sorry. Losing Panarin, and that's another guy I forgot to talk about with the Rangers. Added Panarin in there, so that's going to help them offensively. I don't know how they're going to do overall behind him, but Columbus, I think, just losing too many big pieces on their team. They have Seth Jones, that's about one of the big bright spots on their team, but with everybody else leaving, who knows how long he's going to be there. But that's just how I see it going in the Metro. It's a cluster at the bottom.
I think it's a cluster for the mid. Because Pittsburgh has no defense still. That's my only issue. And that was the issue last year, is they had no defense. And Murray is injured, he'll get better with time. Last year wasn't it. Crosby didn't have any points. They got shut down. They had the issue of, we didn't have a goalie either, where they picked up 2 or 3 goalies at the beginning of the year, and they were still losing 7-0, 7-1.
Yeah.
So I don't know how they're going to do it this year. New Jersey, they could do it. They picked up plenty of young talent. They have older guys looking to prove themselves, and I think they're looking to get back to playing physical and we're rocking it in the red. Islanders, I don't know, man. They go as far as their young core will take them. The rest of it's kind of a weird thing. I think Carolina is probably better than the Islanders, and they added pieces to it. And I hopped on it last year. I'm still on it this year. I'm more about Carolina than I am about the Islanders. I just think the Islanders have better coaching than, as of right now, they have better coaching than they do in Carolina. Now, I don't think they have as much talent, and I think Carolina's goaltending will be the difference between them and that. You might change my mind on the Rangers, except for the new coaching staff.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
That's where I'll buy into Philly more, because Philly, I think, has more talent than the Columbus Blue Jackets, and I think they have more talent than the Rangers. But I think Vigneault's going to stretch the ice more, and it'll be really good for the younger players to get stretched, and it'll open it up. So the issues that they're going to face is playing Washington, the Islanders, and anyone who can shut down the middle, like Columbus, they'll have a hard time with, because Columbus is able to control the neutral zone better than most people will. Be surprising, but I don't know. Columbus still has talent.
Yeah, they still have talent. It's just going to be interesting not having Bobrovsky back there. Whenever they have defensive breakdowns, how it's going to be for them.
We'll see. I don't think Pittsburgh's going to win the division. I think they're capable of doing it. I just don't think they're capable of defending well enough in order to win games.
Especially if Murray is like he was last year, injury prone. They really don't. I mean, they have like Casey, but even their backup struggled. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. So the big gamble on that. I'm more about, like, they still have Holtby. Holtby's still got to get you wins, right? And Gudas is going to. I think Washington will have more penalty trouble this year than they did last year. I just think that. Now,
it'd be interesting to have Gudas and Tom Wilson on the same team.
Yeah.
Got a threat at both ends.
The bottom teams seem like I know what they're going to be the bottom. It's the 3 through 6, but you're selling me on the Rangers a little more than I would like to sell it on myself.
I just think they got a couple of young pieces. They might be exciting, maybe early on in the season or later on, who knows, but I think they may draw a little bit more of a crowd, a little bit more speed to their game.
It'll probably be the beginning of the year is I miss hockey so much, so I kind of watch whatever. And then you want to watch the rookies and you want to watch new teams and there's storylines you want to follow. I remember last year texting you after watching Pettersson score his first goal.
Yeah.
And what did I tell you? Winning Rookie of the Year, right? I texted you that. I watched crappy Vancouver hockey. Because it was crap. It was absolute crap. But I watched that in order to see how good that kid was. Didn't watch all their games. Didn't watch a ton of them. I watched probably 6 games.
It's probably more than I watched.
Yeah, but I was like, that kid has talent. And I watched a couple games of Buffalo. It's really hard for me because of the play-by-play.
Just switch it to the other team.
I have to, but then it focuses more on the other team. I watched Detroit a lot. Not like a super ton, but I watched them enough to be like, they have talent. I don't really watch Florida. I somehow miss out on Tampa Bay a lot.
Yeah, I really don't watch them unless they're on NBC or something.
Yeah.
Something national television.
But I watched. I was enjoying Montreal games.
I think I just watched a lot of Toronto and Washington.
Yeah.
And Boston. All kind of the East Coast teams.
I'll watch the Rangers 5 or 6 times.
It'll be, I don't know.
But
Whenever I watch the Rangers, I never know what to expect. So
It'll be a rough go. I'm gonna watch Philly a lot though. I'm more excited about Philly than I am about New York.
We'll see how Philly matches up with Pittsburgh now. It'll be interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one, you watch that on Wednesday night, right? Because it's a good story. But just how they play everyone else. You either get Philly and Washington, or you get Philly and Pittsburgh. I want to watch Philly play, let's say, Toronto, and maybe let's do someone from
Or even like Philly, like
West.
Carolina or somebody.
yeah. You
Some
got
team that has pretty good young players and some speed against them.
probably Vegas, right? You would want to watch Philly and Vegas.
Yeah, Vegas is a pretty physical team.
Maybe Winnipeg. Winnipeg seems to go kind of back and forth with them a little bit. Just a good mix of it. Now I do this weird thing where I'll watch the game on mute because sometimes either
Just to form your own opinion.
you just because if you just watch it and see how it plays out, it goes a little bit better, and it really tells you like then there's not a bias when the commentator happens. But I don't know, man. Philly at 7 over. We'll see. We'll see. This is
The bottom will be interesting.
the middle of it.
Or the middle, kind of just those like the 4 through 6 or 3 through 6. Those teams that are kind of like could be on the bubble or could completely fall off.
And you know that I mean, in America we have Hard Knocks, and then you have like Inside the Browns or in Cleveland. It's really hard not to buy in to teams when they have. You see in the
everything
practice you're
behind.
doing it. When we went to Topgolf, they had it on the NHL Network, and they had like New Jersey, and they're talking to their coach, and they're showing them practice, and it was really hard for me not to buy into New Jersey. You get PK, you get Boyle, you get Hughes, you get Heischer, you get Hall, you add pieces, and you're like, wow, they're going to be really good. And the coaches, I'm like, really hard for me not to be like, 2.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, you got to pump the brakes.
And then you start watching and then things happen, injuries happen, and it just kind of like you start falling out of it a little bit more.
And that's why I got them at 5. I'm like, I have more belief in Carolina than I do with this New Jersey team. Now, they can prove me wrong, and I'd be okay with that. But I saw it.
They just have to be more consistent.
Yeah, I saw it, and I'm like, we have to slow down.
Carolina was like kind of like a bubble team the year before, and they come in as a wild card this year, and then they could be even better coming into this season. So
they added Holland, they added pieces. They're changing that complete
kind of
culture.
rebuilding, but they could win.
Yeah,
You never know.
They do it. But New Jersey, I'm like, I texted you as soon as they did. I'm like, I'm buying a little more into New Jersey. But I know that I have to be able to slow down and pump the brakes a little bit on it, and this is me pumping the brakes. Now, I think they could do it. I think they could be a wild card. I think they could be a wild card. I think they could be a 3 seed too.
Yeah.
I just have to see them play.
Just that first month.
Because it could be really good, or it could be really bad, and by November, we'll see. December's really the deadline, but we'll really see. And then,
Just how they gel together.
We'll see how it goes. We'll see just how it goes. Because Montreal, I bought into Florida super early last year, and then it just fell apart. And I was like, well, at least I called Carolina and Montreal.
Yeah.
But I'm buying into New Jersey. Hitting up the Western Conference now, so it's going to be a little awkward jump cut because we messed up. So, also had a little bit of a panic attack earlier, and then we needed to charge the camera. So, it's alright. We're back on track. Western Conferences, start in the Pacific. Your 8 teams. Let's do it.
So number 1, bet on the house, always. Betting on Vegas, Pacific Division champs this year. I mean, why not? Went to the Cup final 2 years ago. They went to, we'll say the first round this year, but they really got screwed in Game 7. Not going to talk about that now. I'll stick with Vegas. Fleury, always. I mean, the backstop to that team. They've got a good team they assembled from the expansion draft, and I think they're pretty much bringing back the same people, so I expect them to be a playoff team. San Jose signed Carlson for that 8-year deal, so he's going to be there long term. They've got a good top 4 on their defensive core. They've got good young talent on the top line. Past that, I don't know if they have much scoring threat. Thornton's obviously a free agent, so they'll have to decide what to do with him. They lost Pavelski to Dallas. But I still see him as a big contender. Calgary, I'm picking 3rd this year. I don't know if last year was a fluke or not, coming in, winning the Pacific Division. But then they still went out in the first round, so we'll see what they do this year. I think they've got good young teams. They've just got to pick it up once it comes postseason time if they can get there. Arizona, coming out hot. Phil the Throw Kessel. the hot dog man.
Gotta eat this in 2 months, man.
The man who has one seat in his theater in his house, which is fantastic. I love it. But I'm banking on Arizona to be a contender next year. I think they had at one point where they were kind of a wild card threat. They were threatening some teams that were hanging around that spot, trying to play a spoiler at one point. But I think they're going to be a good team this year. I don't know if they'll make playoffs. Probably not, but I think they could be one of those fringe teams. Anaheim. I don't know why I have them fifth. I just have a feeling that Gibson can backstop them to fifth in that division. Getzlaf is. I mean, he's their one guy there that's been there, that's won a cup with them. So I think he still brings that leadership, and he's still got the scoring touch somewhat. Not as much as when he was younger, but they've got good guys in Cam Fowler on the back end. But I mean, it's all going to come down to Gibson and whether he can stay healthy or not. So, and then Vancouver after Anaheim, they've got Pedersen, Besser. They've got a good young core, a group of people. Quinn Hughes on the back end. They've got a pretty young team. Their goaltending is what could be the issue with them. Getting older on the back end with Ryan Miller back there. Who knows how much longer he has left, but they've got Willie Desjardins.
No.
Or do they?
No.
I don't even know who Vancouver's
And
coach is.
Miller's in Anaheim.
Oh my god. Miller, you better bring it in Anaheim. It's behind Gibson.
They have Markstrom.
Markstrom.
And I think they're looking for backup there.
That'd be my only concern is the goaltender on that end. I mean, he's a young goaltender. He's still trying to learn his way. But I got Vancouver coming in 5th or 6th there. And Edmonton, I just feel so sorry for McDavid. McDavid and Draisaitl had really good seasons last year. Draisaitl hit 40 goals, so that was pretty big for them. But that's pretty much been their only scoring threats. They made the deal for Lucic and Neal, so maybe Neal can bring them a little bit of secondary scoring if he can get his game back on track, stay healthy. Like you said, having Tippett in there, I think is going to help that a little. Be a little bit better defensively, but I don't know if that helps them up front. They can score goals with McDavid and Draisaitl, but if Tippett's going to help them over the edge on that, and having Smith there, he coached him in Arizona and Dallas, so maybe having that connection will help him stabilize a little bit more there in Edmonton and LA. It's going to be a struggle. Their contracts have really put them in a bind, and they really haven't done much to rebuild their team. They pretty much have the same teams that they had when they won the Cup.
Changed a couple faces here. I just
Changed a few, but
they've locked them in for so long and for so much money.
and they're gotten so much older now that they're up near their mid-30s, so they're just getting older, and they don't have much money to spend elsewhere. Quick's been injured frequently. That's
Brown.
going to help.
I don't know. I'll agree with you for the top 3 teams and the bottom 1. All right, the rest of it, I think you're gonna eat it in a couple of months. By November, December, you're gonna see like, hey,
Oops.
Oopsies. Again, we'll go 1 like how Jerry does it. Las Vegas. Get that nice team out in Las Vegas. Got the gold out there, got the home crowd, got really good energy. I mean, I think they actually now have a top line, right? They have Stasny and Stone and Pacioretty, and if they could get it together in the month and a half, 2 months of playing together, just wait for training camp, a little bit of preseason, and then a whole year together. I think Pacioretty, last year was trying to be his bounce back year. This year, I think 40 goals. Stone will have ridiculous numbers. I think they got rid of Colin Miller. They got rid of some people on the back end. They got good leadership generally all around, and they get 1 goal in the house. There's usually going to be 2, and got a good fan base out there. I think it's nice to know that they are the only major sport kind of out there. I mean, the next closest thing is the University of Nevada is the next biggest fan base.
We're supposed to have the Raiders in a few years. So.
And I mean, people only go to football games when you're good. So 4-12 isn't good. Now my second team is San Jose. Like they got a good top 4. I'd say probably top 3 with Burns, Carlson, and Vlasic. Yeah, they got rid of Braum. Jones needs to have a better year this year in general, not just playoff wise. Good coaching. The top 2 lines, they're missing pieces, but they're not completely out of it yet. To me, I would probably, I enjoy watching San Jose as they usually play pretty consistent in what they're doing. Calgary, number 3. The only thing I'm mad about is come playoff time, they are usually undersized and they get thrown around and they don't keep up with what they're doing. Colorado really exposed them in a couple facets of, Colorado gets a little chippy, and when they get chippy, they don't win the game. So that would be my biggest issue. Johnny completely disappearing, and Monahan too. Monahan didn't have anything great. I think Lucic will kind of change that a little bit. Like, hey, it'll be a little more physical with a couple others, but they seem to have lost their physicality and edge, and they have a good goalie, and Richter got rid of Smith, and they picked up Talbot. So I think they fixed that end of it, and their defense is always willing to jump into play. So I think they might. If I had to say they could be second, they probably could, but I don't think they're going to be able to stand the physicality of either one of these teams. Now, my 4 seed is not Arizona, because Arizona has a lot of issues. Arizona is a little bit like Ottawa, but less chaotic, as the city wants to keep them and the owner wants to keep them there, but
just arena situation.
The arena situation with the city.
Kind of same as Calgary.
Oh yeah, but they're Calgary's gonna get a new stadium.
It's not like Ottawa.
Yeah, and the bad contracts of taking on contracts of players that are retired, taking on picks, and you got Domi and Duclair, and you let those guys go, and you bring in Kessel after getting Galchenyuk, and you just have this weird revolving of doors, and then you have, I think you had Strome in the minors, and you traded him off, and then you got a good young defense, kind of big physical defense, Murphy's really good, but then you got rid of Connaughton, right? You got rid of him, you got rid of someone else in the offseason.
Goligoski and
Demers,
OEL.
Jalmerson, OEL. So I mean, you got a good back end. Whether or not you can score is debatable, as you only kind of have missed. There's still some holes offensively, but I think anyone who can shoot can score. So I don't really have that much faith in Arizona. And they got rid of Louis Domingue, and he went to go be Tampa's backup. So I don't really know who your goalie is. So you have a good defense there, and then the coaching staff is a little weird. After them, I have Edmonton. Again, they have Tippett, so Tippett's going to make them play a little more defensively, the right way. That's what they've been trying to do. When we were in Arlington, they were winning games 7-5, and then they were losing them, so they needed better defense. Now, I don't know Mike Smith is the answer to it. I don't know what their defense is going to be looking like. They have, Chris Russell and Darnell Nurse, and there's one other guy I want to say, but offensively, you're going to be fine. I think you're going to be really fine. It's just making sure you play defense the right way. Then I have Arizona after Edmonton. That's where I have them, because I think Edmonton has more talent than Arizona, but they're also going to be outcoached. Now, I have Vancouver ahead of Edmonton because they've had the same coach for a year, and they have the identity of, we're going to go back to playing physical. We now have enough talent, that's young talent, that's going to be able to score goals. Now, the back end for Vancouver is where I have questions of who's really your defenseman. Who are your guys? After Arizona, I have Anaheim. I think they have more young talent than LA. I don't know if they win the series against LA. That's just me. I think LA's coach is now Willie.
Yeah,
Willie is it? Quick is an iffy one. They have Campbell, so I think they have a little bit better. I think Anaheim just edges them out in certain spots, but LA is just too much for me. Like I don't see it. I don't like the jerseys. I don't like anything. Like there's not really anything that I'm super enjoying. Now they do have a player I like watching in Kopitar, but I'm not gonna be. Well, let me turn on the LA game. I only watch LA when they play
It's
Anaheim.
like, well, every other game is over and it's 9:30, so
Yeah,
watch
really,
LA.
yeah. I watch LA, and even then when it's 9:30, I'm like, you know what?
Depends on who they're playing.
If they're not playing Anaheim or they're not playing San Jose, I don't think I'm really gonna watch. And if it's not close, they just have big physical bodies now. They've been making trades with like Buffalo, and I think they've been losing a lot of their core. I'm not excited to watch LA. There's nothing. Oh, LA.
There's not a lot of big storylines coming out of them.
No, just the battle of whatever it is between LA and Anaheim. I think they have a little more issues with San Jose than they do Anaheim. I don't know. It's fine. I'm happy with my list on that one. I thought it'd be a little bit easier, but like I said, I'm gonna say now, like we did this earlier, but like I said now, 4 through 6 I think are up for kind of anything. I'm gonna watch more of Edmonton this year, not because we went out and got Ken Hitchcock. Why? Like why? His style isn't working. He didn't work in Dallas. Doesn't work in St. Louis. Didn't work in and you're gonna. Well, you just need a filler. Well, why not get the guy that you're gonna get now? I didn't understand that move. That's whatever. Now we'll see. We'll see how that goes. So we're gonna go to the Central. Let's do it. Because I've looked at your list. We've talked about this earlier before. I still disagree with a lot of it.
Hot again. So I'm taking Colorado at number 1 this year. I think they kind of proved to me, which I know they played Calgary in the first round, but just the way their speed and the way that McKinnon kind of stepped up as like a team leader this year. Landeskog, Rantanen, if they can get his contract situation resolved. Kel McCarr came in and scored in his first ever NHL game in the playoffs. I think he's going to be a good young piece for them. I think they just kind of have a good foundation of young, fast players there that are offensive minded. The defense, they lost Barry, so that's going to be kind of one piece there. But they have Johnson on the back end, Varlamov in net. So I mean, he's kind of had back and forth season. So if he can lock it down on the back end, I think Colorado has a good chance to compete in this division and be one of the top teams. Dallas, I think, takes the second spot, just improving on last season. If Bishop and Hudobin, that's going to be the biggest question of whether they can repeat what they did this last season and kind of be that Vezina caliber goaltending tandem that they had last season. Offense is going to be a big question for them, whether the additions of Pavelski and Perry is going to help them. Their special teams are good on both ends, but Pavelski is only going to help them on the power play, hopefully. And it should be interesting to see how they complement the top line and how they kind of build that lineup throughout on the top 2 lines. Nashville, I have them coming in 3rd. Rene, it seemed like he kind of had like a down year last year. He was still pretty consistent, but it wasn't one of his better years. And UC Saros wasn't too great in the backup role for them, so whether he stays healthy or not is going to be a big question. I know they lost Subban to New Jersey, but I think even with that loss, they still have a good defensive core in place with Ekholm and people like that, Yossi, Ellis. They have a good core there, and having Forsberg and Johansson up front, they've got speed. I still think they're going to be a tough team to play against defensively. Winnipeg, I have them at 4. They could kind of swap back and forth between. I think they're going to be a bubble team this year. I don't know if they'll make it into the top 3 like they usually do every season. Line A has the contract situation going on, so he's not with Winnipeg right now. We'll see if that gets resolved during training camp, if it gets resolved before then, or if it drags into the season, how that might affect them. Hellebuck had a down year last year. Their defense really they're a good defensive team, but it seemed like they didn't have a lot of firepower up front offensively. Wheeler, I mean, besides Line, he kind of disappeared for a few months out of the season, and that really kind of hindered their offense overall. But I think they could be a bubble team this year. St. Louis, I think, doesn't make playoffs. They had a good season last year, obviously, winning the Cup, coming from last place. But I think that happens maybe 1 in a million, a shot like that. So I think if they get into last place again at some point during the season, I don't think I would see them recovering as well as they did this last year. Which they had a coaching change as well, with Berube coming in and kind of taking over. They kind of adjusted to his system. O'Reilly stepped his game up a ton from this year because he really kind of carried the team. Tarasenko wasn't really visible during the playoffs to me. I think O'Reilly and especially Schwartz kind of stepped up. He scored, I think, 14 goals during the playoffs, so it was something ridiculous. And Maroon kind of helped him out, which he's gone now, and he signed with Tampa Bay today. But I think I don't see them making the playoffs with Bennington having to play a full season this year. I think that will be an interesting test for him. Having Allen as a backup, see how many games that kind of, if Bennington's having to play maybe 50, 55 games, or if he's having to play 60 plus games, what that's going to be like for him. Chicago, I think, finishes above Minnesota. I know Minnesota made some good additions during the offseason with Zuccarello, but they also lost Hala and a few different players like that. They've had management changes, coaching changes in the past, so they've kind of not really added any new pieces in. They've kind of stayed the same, and the same thing with long contracts kind of hurting them as well. And Chicago has a good young core. They scared some teams during the season last year, and they were kind of on that playoff bubble for the last couple of months. And Taves had a really great season. DeBrincat kind of had a breakout season for them. So I think Chicago, they're not back where they were a few years ago winning Stanley Cups, but I think they're kind of on their way back up to being a contending team.
Our lists are now completely different. We've looked at this. I will agree with you on St. Louis. Minnesota is also an agreement. I think the big trend of signing people for 7, 8 year deals and having them locked in, I think that started with Kovalchuk, signing him for 17 years or whatever. Something ridiculous. It was over a decade. But the signing of the contracts now, I think a lot of the trends are, maybe we take it from basketball, maybe we take it from football or baseball or whatever it is. It's like, oh, this player's really, really good. Let's sign him for a long time, and we know we can maybe build pieces around him and have this large. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like sign them for the rest of their career, basically.
I'm not a huge fan of that part of it. I think the most if I was a GM, hypothetically, if I was a GM, I think the most I would give somebody is 5, 6 years. Because then you can always renegotiate, and maybe, hey, you made this much money already, and you're tired of this. Maybe you scale back what we can pay you in order to bring more money in to pay other people. I'm all for players getting the most money as you possibly can get, but at some point, like, I appreciate people like Dirk and Tom, and I'm willing to take a pay cut in order for us to make better signings. I'm more, and those players are rare. And
instead of hindering the team, they kind of want to leave enough money to where they can actually build a championship team around them.
So it was really weird. Like, Chicago's really weird, where you have a good core and you won 3 cups in 6 years, and then you signed everybody. And I would get it if they did that for me. I get both kind of aspects of the coin of, hey, these guys were really young and they weren't making a lot of money. Now we treat them well. I get that. Or if, you know what, we've had this guy, we haven't been doing the right things. Maybe we try to build around him. It's interesting to see which paths people take, but I don't like signing players 8 years.
I think the contracts just now, like over the past couple of years, have gotten to where it's like the highest they've ever been. Like annual average salary, like McDavid's making $13 million a year, and Taves and Kane sign similar deals to like $12 million a year, and it's like the prices on players are just getting higher and higher, and with the salary cap, it makes it a lot more difficult for teams to sign other important players that are in the lineup.
But that's just me. So, but besides that, our lists are terribly different. Now, Nashville kept their same core. I don't know if PK being traded to New Jersey is them saying like we don't want him because he's probably by far the most social media active out of the NHL. I think that's still a weird territory for teams to be taking, but he's all over the place. And I'm for it, and I'm also a little bit against it. And I get where teams are from. Maybe he was doing that up in Montreal. I didn't really hear too much, but he came to Nashville and then he hosted the late night All-Star, and that was a little like
It was interesting.
it was something. Maybe when he retires, he could do that, and I'd be okay. But I don't know. But Peter usually has a pretty good team. You know, they got Johansson, they got Forsberg, which is probably one of the best, if not the best player in the Central. I mean, Kane is always up there, but just how much force he plays and there's that, and Taves is up there, but it's hard to match up with him and McKinnon. Like, those are probably,
I think McKinnon I know he's been a good player, but McKinnon just kind of showed his full potential this season. Forsberg's been kind of doing it since he's been there in Nashville.
Willing to take risks, and he does that in the playoffs too. And I mean, so I went with Nashville. They're usually coached pretty well. They always got, they're loud, they're good. I put Chicago at 2 because when you have the core of players that have won 3 cups, I think the standard and expectations of this is how good we should be, and the new coaching changes are gonna carry them into the win. Now they did dump off Anisimov. I think they're bringing, there's always a revolving door of people, but they picked up Olimata from Pittsburgh, so they're trying to fix their back end of, hey, we're no longer running 2 guys, we can run 4 guys, and that's always my biggest knock against Chicago is they've only played 4 people instead of 6 people on defense. Their goaltending situation, if they stay healthy, they're fine, and if Crawford goes down, you have Ward, and Ward's, been able to carry it now. I went Colorado at 3. They've always been inconsistent, and the thing that I've always said was they usually take more penalties than Dallas, so they usually shoot themselves in the foot. Now they're changing what they need to do. They've got Kadri, so they're going to be better on faceoffs. They have McKinnon. They lost Barry, but they got plenty of others. I think they were able to move off of Barry a little bit easier because of the pick they got last year. So I got Colorado there. They play physical. They're able to kind of do it all. I don't think they have a lot of depth. So, but I got Dallas at 4. I had them last year at 4. They play too inconsistent, and they play a little small, and that's just always the knock against them. Now everyone's like, "Oh, how can you always talk bad about?" No, you gotta be. Let's just look at it as it is. We got out hit. We get outshot. We improved a lot. Our power play used to be good, and now it's gone back to being crap. I don't like watching our power play. I've never really enjoyed it because it's not.
The drop pass.
Just.
I don't know, with Spezza gone, I don't know if they'll use it as much now.
John,
But he was about the best player that they had at doing it, was throwing it off to the wing and then getting it back at center, but then it just seemed to every team uses it now, or every team has seen it so much that it's easy to defend against.
I'm about, and we don't really dump and chase well. We don't have a big physical presence, so maybe Paz and Perry will bring that in. But I think to me, I don't like dumping and chasing. I'd rather carry it into the zone, but I'd rather have clean break-ins and with speed. I don't know. Dallas has that issue with me. They don't take a lot of penalties. Colorado, I think, will take more penalties, but they always just seem to struggle against Chicago. Last year they had a little more trouble with it. Colorado is a team we've always struggled with. We've had Winnipeg's number and we had Nashville's number this year, which are 2 teams we couldn't really figure out. Minnesota, we've had, and St. Louis, we couldn't finish out that series with them. So I got Dallas at 4. It's the second year under the same coach, so maybe we get a little more offense. I know it's a new system, so maybe it takes a while. After that, I have Winnipeg. They got rid of Trouba, right?
And lost Hayes.
Lost Hayes. they're at least I know what they are, but they've always been a disappointment in one way or another. Like, one year we were together and I said, hey, Winnipeg, my dark horse. They get in there, they're big, they're physical, they can score. Miss playoffs completely. The next year I'm like, they're not making it. They make it, but they get in and they're hobbled and they're injured. Year after that, they're all over the place. Now, the other thing they have the issue with is they take too many penalties for my liking. I'm fine. Like, them and Philly always took a lot of penalties, and you just knew, like, that just hurts them more. They're injured all the time. I think the window's closed on them. I think we might see everyone just start selling. You know, if it's not nailed down, it's getting rid of, like, it's moving out of the stadium. So, I think we're almost at that point, but I don't want to say we're there yet. It's really
Still
weird.
have a little bit of a small window, maybe.
Small. It depends on how healthy you are, and like you said, Line A started off really slow last year. We were thinking when we went back and looked at it, we thought, no, he wasn't that good. Didn't have that many goals, and then what he ended up like 17. He ended up in like 17th in the NHL with goals or something. He ended up with a high number, and we're like, when did he score that much? After Winnipeg, I got Minnesota. Now, Zuccarello, Parise, they got rid of Coyle, which I disagree with. They got rid of Holla, and then he went to Vegas, and now he's in Carolina. They got rid of Granlund. They got rid of a lot of people. They got rid of a lot of their young talent. I don't know who's coming up for them. And they kept Dumba, and they get rid of Spurgeon. I swear to God, they got rid of Spurgeon.
I believe.
They kept Spurgeon?
I think they signed him. Re-signed him.
I feel like they got rid of some other defenseman that was helpful. And Dubnyk.
Stoner, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. I'd have to go back and we'd have to look at it again. I think, but they have this core, but they've signed them too much, and I don't know if no one wants to go there. I don't know if it's just like the pressure of it. I don't know if it's they had the talent and then they moved it. I don't know. We'll see. I think if it doesn't go well, right? Boudreau had trouble last year of will he keep his job? Well, they fired the GM. Okay, so now they got this new GM. We know him. Played for Dallas. Played for Pittsburgh. Won 4 cups. I'm excited. We'll see. He said he has confidence in him.
See how long that lasts.
If December goes by and they're not playing well, like if they're playing well and they're just losing at the last moment, or it's getting away from them and they go, we just need to hit the draft board and get some talent and look at free agents or pick some people up and fix here and there. But if they're not, if they're losing by 3 goals a night, I think Boudreau gets fired. That's me. I think that would be the first coach to get fired this year. It's the dude from Minnesota. I have them at 6, and I was debating to flip-flop them in St. Louis. Now, I don't think you go from worst to first and then just, it's all honky-dory. We got this new head coach. We kept the same. Getting old, you might have a championship hangover. We see it in all the other sports practically. Like, you win the championship, you get to the championship, you miss playoffs, and then you're never there again. I don't know what to expect. I don't know what to expect from St. Louis. I think Tarasenko's really like their only. Him and Colton Parayko are like the only big stars they have. And O'Reilly. And O'Reilly is a hell of a centerman, but I don't know if him and Tarasenko connect really well. And their defense has been
points last season that they thought they might trade Tarasenko when they were still in last place.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's hard for me to see what St. Louis is doing. We got a puppy. We got a new head coach. We got this young rookie. I don't know what to make of him yet. I know he's older than Murray, or he's a little bit, and he had more time to develop, and he's taken a different path. Great.
It's like they just had a bunch of random pieces that kind of fit together for a little stretch run there.
I mean, at one point they were fighting each other.
Yeah.
So I get the identity of, we're going to play big physical hockey. Great, that works in playoffs. I'm not saying it doesn't. You have to play physical in playoffs. But LA used to have that identity. Now we're big, we're physical, we miss playoffs. Where are we going with that, St. Louis? I just want to know. I think they're 7. Again, right after the cup one, I was like, look, good for them. It's their first cup ever. I'm going to be happy. I'm happy for the sport because that just means there's actually diversity, not just, hey, we got 8 teams that have a realistic, yeah, it means diversity. I just don't think they're making it. I don't feel like, hey, this team is going to be a team that's just going to continue to make playoffs for the next 3 years, right? If you could say 3 years. I never felt that about them. I go, they're probably missing it. And then they're probably going to trade everybody. Or they're going to retire. Like, it's at that point. That's just how I felt. Like, with LA, you're like, oh, maybe that's just a really weird fluke. And then they did it 2-3 times more. And I was like, oh, like, they're a dynasty, too. I didn't get that feeling. You know Boston's going to make playoffs next year. Right? You know Nashville's going to be back. You knew Washington showed back up. They made playoffs again. They won the division. They won their division. So it's like, I don't feel that with St. Louis, where they were dominating you dominated everyone for half a season.
It's like you had a really good stretch of like 3 months of hockey out of 9 months.
Yeah, and good for you. I just, who are you developing? Who are you building? Who are you, like, adding to? At least with New Jersey, they added 2 pieces, 3 pieces. Then they added more pieces, and it's like, hey, you know what? We have Snyder.
Improved in like different areas.
Yeah. We have more of going somewhere. Even the Rangers made more moves in St. Louis. That's just me. Minnesota, I don't know what to do. You've locked them in for so much money, and they're so it's hard to
like you said, I think they get to struggling at one point. It's going to be a quick coaching change for them, and then it's going to be another, like, see what that coach does for the rest of the season, see how they respond to him, but they still miss playoffs.
We'll see. Let's just look at it, think about it. That's just how I view it. Winnipeg, you miss, you can make the excuse of, hey, this entire team was banged up. I mean, Anaheim had that issue. This entire team was banged up for the first 3 months, and then it was like we got too far behind, and no one's playing for the coach, and so now the GM fires it. Anaheim was in a weird situation where they're rebuilding. And LA is in this weird spot. I just don't know what Minnesota is, because they don't play phenomenally. They don't. Hey, we had injuries last year. Hey, we'll see. I don't know. Let's just start with this. The bottom 2 I'm pretty confident in. The others, it could go kind of any which way. I mean, Colorado could probably outplay Nashville, but I don't know if they win the series.
Yeah. It'd be like high octane offense, but the defense might be like Nashville could shut them down with their defense.
I think that's going to be the focus for Nashville this year. They didn't really outperform Dallas's defense.
Yeah, they kind of just got run around a little bit.
Yeah. So, again, we could sit here and talk about Dallas and the last year's playoffs with the Sharks and Knights, but Dallas, even if you are like a small team, you're small on the back end, you just have to figure out, how do I get my talent in what spot? And I think that's what you figure out in your second year. I think they realized we need to be more physical in playoffs, and that's what I wanted. St. Louis did a good job of finishing checks. I don't know how many times I was like, dude, we skate by them and just push. Like, that's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
They're not going to. The rule book gets this thing. You can finish a check on somebody. Just don't make it stupid late.
Yeah. High.
Yeah.
As long as you can keep your arms down, you got free will.
Yeah. So, but I think that's what it is. I think Chicago's like, if people are like, oh, they're not going to be doing whatever. I think they're.
Like if they didn't,
coming back.
like watching the last couple of months of last season, I was like, they were just like rolling over teams.
Yeah.
At one point, and I was like, where did this come from?
New coach, he figured
they
it out.
just kind of, him having to come in, following like Quenneville, they haven't had a different coach for like the last decade, so it's been kind of like, alright, we have a new coach, how are we going to respond to him? And he's like a young coach. He's younger than some of the players on the team. So it's like trying to adjust to a new system, a different coach that you haven't had one maybe in your entire career. Like Kane and Taves, they've never played for anybody other than Quenneville, so it's kind of a shock to the team a little bit.
I think that was a good move. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, even though we're getting rid of all this experience, there's just times where it's like we need something
Need
completely
a change
different.
like now.
Yeah.
And just like start over.
Not completely. I mean, they have like, this is one of those things, you have a good base. Minnesota's at the point, I think Minnesota's getting to the point where you're going to be bad for 5 years. You can't, I don't think I could see a team being bad for 10 years anymore. With how much talent is just available in the league, how much movement you can have, whatever. I don't see a team being bad like, oh, you're going to be consistently bad for 10 years.
Once you get into the draft, you can kind of build a minor league system and move those guys through. Whenever you have older players, you can move them out and you move guys up from the minor leagues.
I mean, you can be bad like that. It's just, but hey, there's a plethora of talent in free agency every year. And if you clear out enough cap space, you could go get somebody.
Or even players that are like not the top free agents, but people that maybe are underrated, you can sign them to a lower level deal and they can be difference makers for you.
It's not, I don't think we've gotten to the point where it's like basketball, where you just have like, hey, let's just build this super team. I mean, Pittsburgh tried doing that a couple years ago.
Salary cap makes it hard.
It makes it harder, but
At least to sustain it.
yeah, you could at least try to make something happen in Minnesota. It's just who's going to take that contract and who needs that. And, I mean, they're getting older. There's issues. I mean, I just think Minnesota's heading to that point of, all right, now we just need to blow everything up.
Yeah.
New coach, new players, keep some people that would be fundamentally important. Anaheim's at that point. I think Minnesota's right there with them of, hey, we don't want Perry anymore. We're going to keep Getzlaff. He's a good leader. He's been with us. That's the guy we got to keep.
Yeah.
He's going to show people how to do things the right way. We just need talent.
Yeah.
And we got
Just
Gibson.
like keep one or two core players and then kind of build a young team around them.
Yeah. Show them the right way to do things. Gibson is young enough, and he's like Price. I think Montreal just did it a little slower than what most teams would be able to do now. I mean, Carolina kind of came out of nowhere with it. But you got new GM, new coach, you brought in a bunch of players. They moved pretty
Seems
quickly.
like Carolina, for missing the playoffs for so long, like the last 3 or 4 years, they've kind of been building up and making trades for good young players and kind of building a team that's like kind of built for the future.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Built for the future, built for now. I mean, hell, the Islanders. Oh, okay, we lost Oposo, and oh, we lost Tavares, and oh, we lost. Now hey, we could be a number 3 seed again.
They just drafted well.
Yeah. Part of it, I guess, is you have to draft really well. The other part of it is like I think you could really build a team of free agents. And Vegas would be my example of, hey, all these guys are unguarded and no one wants you. Well, I mean,
That kind of gives you an identity right there.
yeah. I mean, hell, you could do, it's recruiting now. Hey, I know you're a free agent. Here's what we can offer you. A little more money, and we can try to build people to play around you. I don't know how much players are like, yeah, that'd be a lot of fun to go play with that guy. That would be a lot of, I think there's a little bit of people are a little scared of that right now. But I mean, everyone else does it.
Yeah.
Everyone else is doing it. Why not us? I mean, I know the NHL makes more trades than any other league. But the players aren't there for
trying to manage the cap.
Yeah.
And trying to get under it, but also trying to add pieces that are going to help you actually win games. So not just trying to make moves for the sake of making fans happy or front office, coaches. You're trying to make the best moves to help your team out.
So, but that's my list. We'll see how that goes. I mean, the Central is such a mess. I thought the Pacific would be a little bit easier, but again, the Canadian teams I would like to see kind of bounce back. Who knows, man?
Especially like Vancouver. Like Vancouver has just been kind of out of the playoffs for not so long, but for a pretty good while. I think 5 or 6 seasons now, and it's like it was exciting when there was playoff hockey there, and the Bell Center. Whenever there's games at the Bell Center, like playoff games, Ottawa, those places, it's exciting to have playoff hockey.
Well, it's exciting just about anywhere. I think it's just exciting anywhere. I mean, how Carolina bought in hard.
The Islanders, even when they had a couple of those playoff games at the old Nassau Coliseum, it was like watching old Islanders games.
So we'll see. This is fifth video we did. We are probably running about an hour on this one, but this is our predictions list for the 2019 season.